The twin suns of Horus rose slowly across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and silver. The entire capital city was awake long before sunrise. People rushed through the streets, carrying small flags, colorful ribbons, and glowing bracelets. Children climbed onto their parents' shoulders to see the tall launch tower in the distance. Everyone talked excitedly about the same thing: the new ship, the pride of humanity, the vessel that would lead them deeper into the stars than any ship before it. The Aurora Ascendant stood in silence at the top of the platform, towering above the city like a monument to human courage. Its metallic surface reflected the light of the twin suns and made it look like a giant spear pointed toward the sky. Commander Leora Vance stepped out of the transport shuttle and looked at the crowd that had gathered around the platform. She had seen large gatherings before, but nothing compared to this. People sang, waved banners with her name, and shouted praises for the engineers, scientists, and workers who had built the starship. Leora was not someone who enjoyed attention, but she understood the meaning of this moment. Humanity had fought through wars, survived disasters, and rebuilt itself so many times that hope sometimes felt like a rare thing. Yet today, that hope shone brighter than the suns. She walked along the red carpet with her crew behind her. Each of them wore the dark blue uniform of the Deep Space Exploration Division. Their boots made soft echoes against the metal surface as camera drones floated around them, capturing every step and angle. The smell of warm air, fuel, and distant sea mixed together. Leora breathed in slowly, letting the excitement of the moment wash over her. General Harrow approached her with a booming laugh. He was a broad-shouldered man with gray streaks in his beard and eyes that had seen more battles than most soldiers ever would. "Leora," he said, pulling her into a firm embrace. "This is your moment. Humanity has been waiting for this ship, and you're the one who will lead it." "I'm honored, sir," she replied. "I only hope we live up to what everyone expects." "You will. You always do." The general stepped aside as the chief engineer, Mari Solin, hurried over with a datapad in her hands. Her hair was messy from working all night, and the grease stains on her sleeves showed she had barely taken a break. She looked exhausted, but proud. "Everything is ready, Commander," Mari said. "Engines, navigation, life support, AI systems, everything tested twice. She's perfect." Leora smiled. "That's because you built her." "Well, not alone, but I'll take the compliment." While they talked, the ship's lights flickered. Just for a second, barely a blink, the reflection on the hull shimmered, then returned to normal. Mari didn't notice, but Leora did. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She opened her mouth to ask something, but the flicker disappeared so fast she wondered if she imagined it. She pushed the thought aside. Today was too important for doubts. The ceremony began with a grand orchestra playing a song composed specifically for the launch. A choir of children sang in harmony while holographic images of Earth, Mars, Titan, and many colony worlds appeared above the crowd. It was a reminder of how far humanity had come. There had been a time when survival was the only goal. Now they stood ready to explore beyond the known borders of space. Leora walked up the stage. The applause hit her like a wave. For a moment, she felt small before the cheering sea of people. But she stood tall and faced them with calm strength. "My friends," she began, her voice traveling through speakers. "Today we celebrate more than a ship. We celebrate our courage. For centuries, humans have looked at the stars and dreamed of touching them. Today, the Aurora Ascendant will carry that dream farther than ever before." The crowd roared with excitement. Flags flew up, drones flashed lights, and families hugged each other. "When I look at this ship," she continued, "I see the work of engineers who never gave up, scientists who never stopped searching, and citizens who kept believing in something greater. This ship is not only metal and circuits. It is hope. And I promise you all, we will protect that hope." More applause broke out. Some people cried, overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. Leora's speech ended, and she turned toward her crew. They saluted her, then saluted the crowd. Together they boarded the lift that would carry them up to the entrance of the Aurora Ascendant. The lift rose slowly, giving them a full view of the entire city. Thousands of tiny lights sparkled below from buildings, displays, and handheld devices people lifted to record the moment. Inside the ship, everything smelled new. Fresh metal, polished floors, recently installed electronics. The lights along the hallway glowed softly, with a cool blue hue. Leora ran her fingers along the wall. It felt solid and warm, like the heart of a living machine. She walked through the ship, greeting each department as she passed. The bridge was spacious and filled with gently humming equipment. In the center stood the command chair, surrounded by transparent holo screens. The ship's AI, Ariel, activated as soon as Leora entered. A soft, calm voice filled the air. "Welcome aboard, Commander Vance." Leora nodded. "Glad to be here, Ariel." "Status report? All systems functioning within normal parameters. Engines at full readiness. Navigation routes prepared. Crew life signs stable. Launch procedures awaiting your order." "Good. Keep everything steady." "Of course." The rest of the crew settled into their stations. Dr. Jaren, the science officer, adjusted the scanning arrays. Lieutenant Rel, head of security, checked the defense systems. Pilot Aya Thorne ran her hands over the controls with excitement. "I can't believe I'm flying this thing," Aya said, grinning. "You earned it." Leora replied. The intercom buzzed. "Commander," the launch director announced. "We are ready for countdown. Please confirm." "Confirmed," Leora said. She took a deep breath. The room grew quiet. Each crew member focused. Hands ready on controls. Eyes sharp with determination. The countdown began from the tower outside. The entire city echoed with the deep voice speaking through giant speakers. 10. People held their breath. 9. Lights flashed around the platform. 8. Children swung their legs nervously on their parents' shoulders. 7. Leora felt the seat vibrate slightly as the engines warmed up. 6. She glanced at the screens. 5. Everything seemed normal. 4. For a tiny moment, the lights flickered again. 3. Only Leora noticed. 2. Her heart tightened. 1. The engines roared with thunder. Launch. The Aurora Ascendant lifted smoothly off the platform. The crowd erupted into cheers that reached the sky. The ground fell away as the ship climbed higher, passing through the thin cloud layers and emerging into the clear blue of the upper atmosphere. The hull vibrated lightly, then stabilized as they entered the calm darkness of space. "Engine steady," Aya reported. "Navigation responding perfectly," Jaren added. "Shields at full capacity," Rel confirmed. Leora nodded. "Good work, everyone." The ship glided smoothly through orbit. The blue planet of Oris shone below like a jewel. The view was breathtaking. Even for someone like Leora, who had been to space many times. Families watched from the planet's surface as the Aurora Ascendant became a small star moving slowly across the sky. People hugged each other, waving at the ship even though they knew no one could see them. Inside the ship, the crew continued their checks. Everything seemed perfect, just as Mari had promised. Then the lights flickered again. This time, it lasted a second longer. Not enough to cause panic, but enough for Leora to feel the cold edge of concern. The flicker was strange, more like a pulse than a failure. It felt almost alive. "Ariel," Leora said quietly. "Did you detect that?" A brief pause followed. "I detected a minor fluctuation in the power grid," Ariel replied. "It was within acceptable range. Source? Unknown. Diagnostics show no malfunction." Leora didn't like that answer. Machines always had a clear cause when something went wrong. Unknown was not a word she wanted to hear on the first day of the mission. She stood from her chair and walked to the central console. "Run a deeper scan," she ordered. "I want every deck checked, every wire, every connection." "Understood," Ariel said. The crew looked at her curiously, but no one questioned her. They trusted her instincts. Leora had survived missions that others thought impossible. If she felt something was off, they paid attention. Minutes passed as the ship continued on its path. The engines hummed like the soft beat of a drum. The stars outside stretched into long white lines as they prepared to enter slipstream. Ariel spoke again. "Commander, All systems appear normal. No faults detected. Leora frowned. She decided not to press further, not yet. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe her earlier worries made her overly cautious. Or maybe the ship was simply adjusting to the strain of launch. The crew relaxed again, laughing softly as they admired the view. The atmosphere shifted back to excitement, but Leora kept her eyes on the lights. She didn't blink. She waited, and the lights did not flicker again. Not for the rest of the launch day. Still, the unease sat quietly at the back of her mind, like a shadow waiting for the right moment to step forward. The Aurora Ascendant glided through space like a silver arrow, leaving Orcs far behind. Below, the planet shrank into a pale blue dot, while above, the infinite black stretched endlessly, dotted with stars that flickered like distant lanterns. For the crew, the first week of the voyage was a mixture of awe and meticulous work. Each system had to be checked, every routine verified, and every potential hazard anticipated. Commander Leora Vance spent hours walking the corridors, observing her crew at work. Some were young and eager, others seasoned and calm, yet all shared the same mixture of excitement and nervousness. They were humanity's best, entrusted with the most advanced ship ever built. And yet, in the quiet corners of her mind, Leora could not ignore the faint unease from the flickers of the launch day. Dr. Jaren, the science officer, was the first to notice the subtle anomalies. He was hunched over his console in the observation deck, examining readings from distant stars. At first, it was small. An unusual spike in the energy output of the engines. Just a fraction beyond expected limits. Then, sensors along the outer hull reported brief fluctuations in the quantum field surrounding the ship. "Commander," he called over the intercom, "you might want to see this." Leora walked over, her boots clicking against the smooth metallic floor. She peered at the screens, seeing lines of data shift in strange patterns. The fluctuations were minor, barely perceptible, but they were unusual. "Could it be a system error?" she asked. "Possibly," Jaren replied, scratching his head. "But I've run diagnostics 3 times. Everything checks out mechanically. I can't explain this." Leora frowned. "Keep monitoring. If it grows, we'll take action. But for now, let's continue with the planned course." The crew nodded and continued their duties, but the unease slowly spread. Even pilot Aya Thorne noticed subtle changes. When she maneuvered the ship through asteroid clusters, the controls sometimes seemed to resist, pulling slightly in unexpected directions. It was brief, almost unnoticeable, but enough to make her tighten her grip on the console. "What is happening to this ship?" Aya muttered under her breath. Rel, head of security, approached her. "It's nothing. Just nerves. The first mission, deep space, don't let it get to you." Aya shook her head, still wary. "No. I've flown in dangerous conditions before. This is different." As days passed, the Aurora Ascendant sailed deeper into uncharted regions. The crew kept themselves busy with experiments, maintenance, and observation. They scanned nearby star systems, charted asteroid fields, and recorded readings that would help humanity understand the galaxy. Everything seemed normal, almost perfect. But then the lights flickered again. This time, it was not a brief moment. The glow along the hallways dimmed and brightened, like breathing. Crew members glanced at each other in confusion. Ariel, the ship's AI, announced calmly, "Minor fluctuation detected in power distribution. All systems nominal." "Nominal?" Leora repeated, stepping into the corridor. She felt a shiver run down her spine. The lights flickered once more. And this time, for a heartbeat, the hallways appeared to ripple, as if the metal itself wavered. "Everyone stay calm," Leora said firmly. Her voice carried authority, though inside, she felt tension rise. "Ariel, run a full diagnostic. I want every deck checked, no exceptions." "Yes, Commander." The crew split into teams, walking along the corridors, tapping panels, checking circuits. Yet no visible fault appeared. Everything was intact, pristine. Even the engines, running at full capacity, showed nothing unusual. The flickers seemed to have no source, and yet, the feeling of being watched persisted. Dr. Jaren, pale and anxious, came to Leora with a tablet in hand. "Commander, I've analyzed the fluctuations. They don't match any natural phenomena I know, and they're growing. Each pulse seems to have a pattern, almost like a rhythm." Leora took the tablet and studied it. "A rhythm?" "Yes, almost intelligent. It's subtle, but not random." She pressed her lips together. "Intelligent? You mean someone or something is interfering with the ship?" "I don't know," Jaren admitted. "It's just speculation. But the data suggests it could be an entity reacting to the ship's energy signature." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Outside, stars glimmered coldly against the black void. The ship moved like a silent sentinel, unaware or perhaps aware of the tiny flickers that worried its human crew. "We need to stay focused," Leora said finally. "Document everything. No panic, no rumors. We'll handle this scientifically." The next day, more signs appeared. Crew members reported seeing shadows at the edge of their vision, corridors that seemed longer than before, and whispers that barely carried through the intercom. Most dismissed these as fatigue, stress, or overactive imaginations. But the feeling of unease grew stronger. Even the cheerful chatter of younger crew members had diminished. Leora gathered her senior officers in the command deck. The holographic map of nearby star systems floated before them, showing the Aurora Ascendant's path. "This is no ordinary system anomaly," she said, pacing slowly. "We've confirmed no mechanical faults. The flickers, the shadows, even the whispers, they are connected. I want all sensors recalibrated and an energy sweep conducted throughout the ship. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." Rel frowned. "Commander, if it is some alien entity, what are our options? Defensive measures? Evacuation?" Leora shook her head. "We are not abandoning the ship. That is not an option. If it is intelligent, we need to understand it first. Attack without knowledge will get us killed." The officers nodded. Each of them respected her judgment, though worry etched their faces. Over the following days, Dr. Jaren and his team worked tirelessly in the ship's core. They traced the energy pulses through circuits, power conduits, and quantum engines. Nothing in human science explained the patterns. And then, deep in the ship's energy lattice, they discovered something impossible. A crystalline structure, unlike any metal or mineral known to humanity. It pulsed faintly, as if alive, feeding off the energy around it. "It's intelligent," Jaren whispered when he first observed it. "It reacts when we measure it. Almost like it knows we're watching." Leora stepped closer. The structure seemed to hum softly, a faint resonance that matched the flickers throughout the ship. "Can it harm us?" she asked. "Not directly," Jaren replied. "But it could learn from the ship's systems. If it adapts too quickly, we might lose control." The realization hit them all. The Aurora Ascendant was no longer just a human starship. It was now a shared environment with something completely alien. That night, Leora stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the endless stars. Below, the crystalline entity pulsed faintly in its containment area. The lights along the hallways flickered once again, gently this time, almost like a signal. She wondered what it wanted. Communication? Understanding? Or was it merely exploring its new surroundings? Learning from them? Aya Thorne, sitting at the pilot's console, noticed Leora's expression. "Something wrong?" Leora shook her head. "I don't know, but I feel watched. Not in a bad way. Just aware. I've never felt anything like it." Aya laughed softly. "Maybe it just likes us. Or maybe it's curious about humans." Leora smiled faintly, appreciating the attempt to lighten the mood. Curiosity can be dangerous in space, especially when you can't see the observer. As days turned into weeks, the Aurora Ascendant continued its journey deeper into uncharted regions. The crew adjusted to the alien presence, though the flickers and strange phenomena persisted. They were careful not to panic, careful to document every anomaly. Through it all, Commander Leora maintained discipline and hope, her calm demeanor helping the crew endure the uncertainty. One evening, during a routine inspection of the ship's engines, the flickers grew more pronounced. Lights along the main corridor pulsed in rhythm with the energy core. Ariel, the AI, announced calmly, "Unidentified energy signature detected. Pattern indicates growth." Leora felt a chill. "Growth?" "Yes, Commander. The crystalline structure appears to be increasing in activity and complexity." She took a deep breath. "Then we learn from it. Observe, document, and understand. Do not interfere unless necessary." The crew worked tirelessly, monitoring the crystal and its effects on the ship. Every flicker, every subtle shadow, every unexplained hum became part of a growing dataset. Slowly, patterns emerged. The entity was learning from the ship's systems, testing its limits, exploring, and adapting. It was not hostile, but it was not harmless either. It was something entirely new. Leora realized that the Aurora Ascendant's first mission was no longer just exploration of distant stars. It had become a test of humanity's ability to understand, adapt, and coexist with something utterly alien. The ship itself had become a living experiment, a place where humans and something entirely new shared space, energy, and understanding. That night, as the crew rested, Leora stayed on the bridge, gazing at the stars. The crystal pulsed softly, the lights flickered gently, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel a strange connection to the unknown. The universe was vast, mysterious, and full of dangers. But it was also full of opportunities. Opportunities that only humanity, brave and curious, could grasp. For the Aurora Ascendant and its crew, the journey had only begun. The Aurora Ascendant sailed deeper into the unknown, leaving the familiar stars of Orus behind. The black of space was complete now, broken only by distant points of light that blinked like candles in an infinite void. For the crew, life had settled into a careful rhythm. Day and night no longer mattered in the vacuum of space. Time was measured in shifts, readings, and energy cycles. Yet beneath the routine, a quiet tension thrived. The flickers had become more frequent. Lights along the corridors dimmed and brightened unpredictably. Equipment would start and stop on its own, just long enough to unsettle the crew. Most dismissed it as fatigue or minor malfunctions, but Commander Leora Vance knew better. She had faced dangers before, and instinct told her that this was something new, something intelligent. One morning, the ship's sensors detected a subtle change in the crystalline entity embedded deep within the energy core. Its pulses were faster now, almost deliberate, and they seemed to synchronize with the ship's internal systems. Dr. Jaren, the science officer, examined the readings with narrowed eyes. "This is remarkable," he said, pointing at the display. "The crystal is not just drawing energy. It's interacting with the ship. Every flicker, every minor anomaly. It's testing the systems, learning from us." Leora studied the display. "Learning? How can it learn?" "It's a crystal. It's not like anything we know," Jaren said. "Its structure is adaptive. It responds to our actions. It anticipates our moves. In some ways, it's more intelligent than some AI I've studied." Aya Thorne, the pilot, crossed her arms, frowning. "So what you're saying is, it's alive?" "In a sense," Jaren replied. "It perceives, it reacts, it evolves." Rel, the head of security, shook his head. "Then we'll deal with it," Leora said firmly. "But right now, we have no reason to assume hostility. We don't understand it. Our job is to study, not to attack." Despite her words, a cold unease settled over the bridge. Leora felt the weight of responsibility. The crew was counting on her. The ship was humanity's hope for exploration and discovery, and now, something alien, something unpredictable, shared their space, and they could not remove it. Over the next few days, the crystal's influence became more noticeable. Lights in the crew quarters flickered at irregular intervals. The environmental controls would occasionally adjust temperature and airflow without command. Even Ariel, the ship's advanced AI, reported anomalies it could not fully explain. "Commander," Ariel said one morning, "multiple subsystems have experienced irregular activity. I cannot determine cause or intent." Leora ran her hand along the console. "Keep monitoring, Ariel. Document everything. And alert me immediately if anything escalates." "Yes, Commander." One evening, during routine maintenance, Lieutenant Rel discovered that the security cameras along one corridor had begun recording footage of empty hallways. But on the playback, shadows moved independently, crossing the hall at impossible angles. "Commander," Rel said, showing Leora the footage on a tablet. "Look at this. No one was here, yet the shadows move. I don't understand it." Leora leaned closer, her brow furrowed. "It's subtle, but it's there. This crystal, it's not just learning from systems, it's observing us." Dr. Jaren arrived and examined the footage. "Fascinating," he said quietly. "It might be constructing a model of human behavior, predicting patterns. If it understands us, it could manipulate systems without malicious intent, but also without our control." Aya frowned. "So it's like a ghost in the machine?" "In a way," Leora said. "But it's not a ghost. It's alive, intelligent, and adaptive. And we don't know its limits." The realization weighed heavily on everyone. The ship that had once seemed like humanity's ultimate achievement now held an unknown entity capable of understanding and reacting to their every move. Some crew members whispered quietly about the flickers and shadows, afraid to speak openly. Others tried to ignore them, focusing on routine tasks. But Leora knew fear could spread faster than the light of the twin suns. Determined to understand the entity, she ordered a controlled experiment. The idea was simple. Feed the crystal small amounts of energy and observe its response. Jaren set up the test in the energy core, carefully monitoring every fluctuation. Ariel assisted, recording precise data and ensuring no subsystem was endangered. As the energy pulse traveled into the crystal, it glowed brighter, sending tiny waves of light along the ship's conduits. Lights flickered in rhythm with the pulse, and the crew watched in tense silence. "Look," Jaren whispered. "It's responding immediately. The rhythm matches the energy input perfectly. It's communicating." "Communicating?" Leora repeated. "How can a crystal communicate?" Jaren shook his head. "Not with words. With patterns. With energy. It senses what we do and reacts. Each response is deliberate." Leora took a deep breath. "Then we learn to speak its language. We adapt." Over the next several days, the crew developed a method of controlled energy pulses to interact with the crystal. Each pulse was precise, measured, and designed to elicit responses. Slowly, a pattern emerged. When they sent a series of pulses in specific sequences, the crystal pulsed back in kind, as if acknowledging the message. The flickers along the ship's corridors became less random, almost like a form of recognition. For the first time, a sense of cautious hope spread among the crew. They were not facing a threat they could not understand. They were facing an intelligence unlike any they had encountered, but one that could be studied, observed, and perhaps even cooperated with. Then the first warning appeared. A sudden surge of energy coursed through the ship's systems. Lights along the main corridor flickered violently. Alarms blared, and Ariel reported critical fluctuations. Crew members rushed to their stations, checking readings and stabilizing power flows. "What triggered this?" Leora shouted over the alarms. Jaren looked at the energy core in shock. "It responded too quickly. I think our pulses, our attempts at communication overloaded its processing. It's not hostile, but it's powerful. Far more powerful than we realized." Leora's heart pounded. "We must establish limits. No more experiments until we understand control measures." Despite the scare, the incident had taught them something vital. The crystal was not inherently malicious. It reacted, but it followed logic and patterns. It could be reasoned with, if carefully approached. Over the following week, the crew refined their techniques. They found ways to isolate the crystal's energy fluctuations from the rest of the ship, creating a controlled interface to study its responses safely. Each interaction revealed more about its nature. It was not just intelligent, it was curious. It explored the ship, learning how to manipulate systems and observing the crew's reactions. It was cautious, methodical, and precise. One day, during a routine observation, Leora noticed something remarkable. The crystal's pulses synchronized with the bridge lights in a pattern that resembled a heartbeat. The ship itself seemed to come alive, responding to the presence of the entity. Leora felt a strange sense of connection, as if the ship and the crystal were forming a single, cooperative system. "This changes everything," she said quietly to Jaren. "We're not just aboard a ship anymore. We're part of something larger." Jaren nodded slowly. "Yes. We've never encountered anything like this. A true partnership is possible, but it requires trust, observation, and respect." Aya leaned back in her chair, eyes wide. "So we're coexisting with an alien intelligence? On our ship?" "Yes," Leora said firmly. "And we must be careful. One wrong move could disrupt the balance. But if we succeed, it will be the greatest achievement in human history. Not because we conquered, but because we learned to coexist." Rel, ever cautious, spoke quietly. "I just hope it doesn't learn faster than we can adapt. One misstep, and it could take control of the systems. That's why we document everything," Leora replied. "Every flicker, every pulse, every response. Knowledge is our greatest weapon." The days passed with careful experiments, observation, and study. The ship moved deeper into uncharted regions, and the crystal's presence became an accepted part of life aboard the Aurora Ascendant. Crew members adjusted to the flickers, understanding them as a form of communication rather than malfunction. Even Ariel seemed to adapt, incorporating the crystal's behavior into its algorithms. And then, as the ship approached a distant nebula of violet gas and swirling stars, the crystal pulsed in a pattern that was unmistakable. A series of quick, bright flashes along the energy core, followed by slower, steady pulses almost like a signal. Leora studied the pattern with Jaren. "It's trying to communicate," she said. "But what does it mean?" "It's trying to communicate," Jaren shook his head. "I can't be certain yet. But it's clearly aware of our presence and is attempting a message. This is the first time it has initiated contact without human input. For the first time, the crew of the Aurora Ascendant realized that their journey was no longer just about exploration of distant stars. It was a voyage into understanding a new form of life, an intelligence that existed in a form they could barely comprehend. As Leora gazed at the pulsating energy core, she felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. The universe had revealed a new kind of intelligence, one that did not speak, move, or breathe in any way humans knew, but that was alive, aware, and capable of learning. The Aurora Ascendant had become a bridge between species, between human curiosity and alien understanding. And for the crew, the knowledge settled deep in their hearts. Humanity's first step into the unknown was no longer just about conquering space. It was about learning, adapting, and becoming part of something greater. The adventure ahead would be dangerous. The unknown always was. But for the first time, they had a partner in the journey, even if it was a partner they could barely comprehend. And as the flickers continued, soft and rhythmic along the corridors, Leora allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had always feared the unknown, but perhaps, she thought, the unknown was not always something to fight. Sometimes, it was something to understand. The Aurora Ascendant sailed on, deeper and deeper into the mysterious expanse, carrying not just explorers, but pioneers of coexistence, into a future that was as uncertain as it was extraordinary. The Aurora Ascendant glided through the nebula, its hull reflecting the soft violet glow of distant gas clouds. The crew moved with careful precision, yet a quiet excitement lingered in every corridor. For weeks, They had observed the crystalline entity embedded deep in the energy core, learning its rhythms, watching its reactions, and slowly developing a form of communication. Each day revealed new patterns, new behaviors, and new possibilities. The ship, once only a vessel of exploration, had become a living experiment of coexistence. Commander Leora Vance sat in the bridge's command chair, her eyes scanning the swirling nebula ahead. The flickers of the lights along the corridors now felt like a gentle heartbeat, a quiet reminder that the ship was alive in more ways than one. She reviewed the latest data from Dr. Jaren and the team of scientists. The energy pulses emitted by the crystal were now more consistent, almost deliberate, responding to carefully timed signals sent from the ship's systems. The crew had devised a method to send structured energy patterns, a kind of dialogue in light and power. And the crystal responded with equal precision. "It's amazing," Dr. Jaren said, standing beside her. "It's not just intelligent, it's adaptable. It reacts, but it also anticipates." "We've never seen anything like it," Leora nodded. "It's more than that. It's cooperative. We're not dealing with a threat anymore. We're dealing with a partner." Aya Thorne, the pilot, leaned over the console, her fingers tracing the controls with quiet excitement. "It's like the ship itself has a mind now. I've never flown anything that responds like this. The controls almost anticipate my inputs. It's incredible." Rel, who normally remained skeptical, crossed his arms. "It's still alien. We can't ignore the possibility that it could turn hostile. One miscalculation and it could. Who knows what could happen?" Leora looked at him steadily. "That's why we study. That's why we observe. Fear won't help us. Knowledge will." For the next several days, the crew continued their experiments with the crystal. Each interaction revealed more about its intelligence. It responded differently to variations in energy, to the tempo of pulses, and even to patterns of movement in the ship. Slowly, the flickers of the lights, once random and unsettling, became a consistent form of communication. Crew members began to notice subtle patterns. A sequence of bright pulses when someone approached the core, a soft glow when systems were stable, and longer, rhythmic flickers when the crystal seemed to ponder the ship's actions. One evening, while analyzing the data, Dr. Jaren noticed something remarkable. "Commander, the crystal isn't just responding, it's initiating sequences on its own. Look at this." He pointed to a graph displaying energy fluctuations. "These patterns are not random. They're messages of a sort. It's trying to communicate with us directly." Leora leaned forward, studying the display. "Messages? Yes, it's subtle, but clear. The pulses correspond with changes in the ship's systems. Almost like it's guiding us. It's sharing information." For a long moment, silence filled the bridge. The realization sank in. The Aurora Ascendant was not only hosting an alien intelligence, it was learning from it. And the entity was learning from them. Humanity had reached a point of true coexistence, facing an intelligence unlike any other in the universe. Leora exhaled slowly. "Prepare a controlled test. We need to respond. If it's sending a message, we must answer." Dr. Jaren and Aya designed a sequence of energy pulses to mirror the patterns the crystal had emitted. Carefully, they sent the signal, monitoring every response. The crystal pulsed back in perfect rhythm, brighter and more pronounced than ever before. Lights along the corridors shimmered and danced in sequence, as if the ship itself were alive and aware of the interaction. "It's understanding us," Aya whispered. "Yes," Leora said, "and we're beginning to understand it." The success of the test lifted the spirits of the crew. Confidence returned, tempered with caution. They had learned to coexist, but the unknown still lay ahead. The nebula they were approaching contained dense fields of charged particles, dangerous radiation pockets, and uncharted gravitational anomalies. It was the perfect test of the partnership they had developed with the crystal. As the ship entered the nebula, systems began to flicker unpredictably. The crystal's responses intensified, sending rapid sequences of light through the conduits. At first, It appeared chaotic, but soon a pattern emerged. The ship's AI, Ariel, adjusted engine output, shield alignment, and navigation routes in real time, following subtle cues from the crystal. It was a cooperative effort, unlike anything the crew had ever experienced. "Steady," Leora commanded. "Trust the crystal. Trust the ship." The crew watched as the Aurora Ascendant maneuvered through the nebula's hazards with remarkable precision. Asteroids shifted, radiation pockets glowed, and magnetic storms crackled, yet the ship moved gracefully, guided by the combined intelligence of humans, AI, and the alien entity. Dr. Jaren's voice trembled with excitement. "This is historic. We're witnessing a true partnership between species. Not just survival but cooperation at its highest level." Rel remained vigilant, scanning for anomalies. "Don't get too comfortable. It's still alien. We don't fully understand its intentions." Leora nodded. "We will remain vigilant. But today, we adapt. Today, we learn." For hours, the Aurora Ascendant navigated the nebula. The crew observed the crystal's responses, noting every pulse, flicker, and change. Slowly, a rhythm emerged, guiding them through the densest regions safely. Lights along the corridors pulsed in harmony with the crystal, and the ship seemed almost alive, moving as one entity rather than separate components. When they finally emerged from the nebula, the crew erupted in quiet relief and amazement. The Aurora Ascendant had survived unscathed, guided by the crystal's intelligence and the careful coordination of the crew. Leora allowed herself a rare moment of satisfaction. "We did it," she said quietly. Together. The days that followed were filled with careful exploration. The crystal continued to communicate through light and energy, offering insights into space anomalies, optimal navigation routes, and system efficiencies. It was as if the ship itself had become a living partner in the mission. The crew grew accustomed to its presence, interpreting its flickers and pulses as they would gestures or expressions from a human colleague. One evening, while observing a distant star system, the crystal pulsed in a long, steady sequence. Leora recognized the pattern immediately. It was a greeting of sorts, a recognition of their cooperation. She smiled and instructed Dr. Jaren to respond with a matching sequence. The ship's lights shimmered in harmony, casting a soft glow over the bridge. "It's acknowledging us," Aya said softly. "It sees us as equals." "In a way, yes," Leora said. "We've taken the first true step toward coexistence. Not domination, not fear, but understanding." The success of this interaction changed the dynamic aboard the Aurora Ascendant. Crew members moved with more confidence, taking calculated risks, exploring anomalies, and documenting phenomena they would have avoided before. The ship, guided by the combined intelligence of humans and crystal, became a formidable tool for exploration. Months passed, and the Aurora Ascendant continued its journey. The flickers, once unsettling, became a form of communication that everyone could interpret. The crystal, far from being a threat, had become an invaluable partner. It predicted space anomalies, suggested efficient navigation paths, and even helped stabilize the ship during minor emergencies. Leora stood on the observation deck one evening, watching distant galaxies drift by. The crystal pulsed softly in the energy core, and she felt a sense of connection she had never experienced before. Humanity had faced many challenges, many unknowns. But this was different. They were not alone in the universe, and they had found a way to reach out to life that was completely foreign, and yet, understanding had been achieved. "This is only the beginning," she said quietly to herself. "There's so much more to learn. And we will." As the Aurora Ascendant approached a particularly beautiful star cluster, the crystal pulsed in rapid sequences, almost excitedly. Leora smiled and looked at her crew. "It wants us to explore further," she said. "We're not just observers anymore. We're partners. Together, we'll discover what no human has seen before." Dr. Jaren nodded. "And together, we'll survive anything the universe throws at us." Aya leaned back in her seat, a grin on her face. I never thought I'd fly a ship that could think with me. Rel smirked. I still don't fully trust it. But it's better than I expected. Leora turned her gaze toward the nebula ahead. The lights along the corridors pulsed in time with the crystal, steady and reassuring. The Aurora Ascendant, humanity's most advanced ship, was alive in a way no one could have imagined. Its journey was no longer just about exploration. It was about partnership, understanding, and the courage to embrace the unknown. The ship moved forward, deeper into the endless expanse of space, carrying not only humanity's hopes, but also a new form of intelligence that had become their companion, guide, and friend. The stars stretched infinitely, but the Aurora Ascendant moved confidently among them, a symbol of what humanity could achieve when courage, knowledge, and cooperation came together. And somewhere deep in the energy core, the crystal pulsed gently, a heartbeat of the unknown, a reminder that the universe was full of wonders, and that humanity, brave and curious, had taken its first true step into the vast, mysterious cosmos.